This is BMW's second generation X2, the baby sports activity vehicle for people who like a more coupe profile. Now in its first generation, this car was extremely popular. BMW managed to sell nearly 400,000 globally. And when it arrives in Australia in the second quarter of this year, 2024, it'll be available as 4 variants, 2 electric versions, the iX2, and 2 petrol versions. And the most premium of those 2 petrol versions is this, the M35i. Now I'm particularly interested in this variant because at $92,900, it costs about 14 grand more than the previous version. And it's about a half a second slower 0 to 100. So why should you be interested in this car? Well, that's why I've come all the way to Portugal to find out.
Chasing Cars, honest reviews of your next car. Brought to you by
Budget Direct.
So, what do you get for your cash? For a start, there is, as before, a 2-litre turbocharged 4-cylinder under the bonnet, but the B48 engine now produces 233 kilowatts and 400 newton meters, so plenty of performance. It sends all that power and torque to all 4 wheels via a 7-speed dual-clutch automatic transmission, and I get other goodies like 21-inch wheels, M Sport brakes, 4-piston calipers at the front, this lovely M Sport body kit, and M Sport adaptive suspension. So there's a fair bit of cash going into that bottom line. And let me say that that engine is still a really nice little performer. Now apparently this car does 0 to 100 in a half a second slower than the previous version, but it doesn't feel like it to me. It still is pretty muscular and responsive, and the one thing I really like about this engine is the throttle response. It's so good, so eager to pick up that acceleration, almost like it's got a bit of electric assistance or something. It also makes a lovely sound. I don't know how much of that is coming through the speakers, but a lot of it sounds pretty genuine to me. And a notable word for that 7-speed dual clutch transmission, because it seems to know exactly what I'm thinking. It's very intuitive, very responsive, and matches that brilliant throttle response beautifully. Another thing that has been dramatically improved over the previous version is the ride, handling and steering feel. The previous version had what could be described as, at times, a shocking ride quality. But now, thanks to the M adaptive suspension, I've got a number of different options. Now this is just in normal mode, and I can say that it's got a real nice resistance to body roll, paired with a steering which has finally come alive. This thick steering wheel in my hand has got plenty of feel, but it's not too heavy. It's a really nice balance of feedback and also comfort. And look at all the kit you get in the interior as well. The headline here is we've now got BMW's operating system 9, which means I've got the amazing curved digital display, which Siameses that big central touch screen along with the 10.25-inch driver's instrument cluster. And it's a real centerpiece. It makes this car feel really special from the moment you get in it. Add to that things like these spectacular M Sport bucket seats with illuminated M in the headrest, leather everywhere, some really nice quality materials, new stitching on the dashboard, a suede sort of Alcantara-like material. It does feel genuinely premium. And there's lots of storage options as well. I particularly like, here I've got this kind of flying central armrest, which does have storage in the top there for a small phone or something, but underneath I've got heaps of storage for bigger items, 2 big cup holders here. And then one of my favorite features, it's clever BMW's smartphone holder, which holds it against a wireless charging mat, but has a clever fan built in. You know how your phone can get really hot when it's charging wirelessly? BMW's thought of that. I've also got a large, generous, full-color, almost 3D effect head-up display, which I can customize. And that's a word that you hear a lot in this car, is customization, because I can pick exactly what information I want displayed on that central screen, exactly what I want in my instrument cluster, so I can really make this car feel all my own. But I'm still struggling to understand exactly what I get for my extra $14,000 over the previous version. The performance is no greater. I've got a little bit more technology, plus points there. But what this car really comes down to in its new generation is space and size. This is where the big difference lies. Now this car is larger overall, width, height and length, but all of that length is here, about 200 millimeters longer. Now that means a lot more space inside, space for people and space for things. Now this car has grown, I've got more space pretty much everywhere. 560 litres in the boot, or up to 1400 litres if you fold those rear seats. I've got heaps of space up front here. The only thing is a really thick A-pillar which limits the forward view, but otherwise tons of view around me. It feels really airy. And there's heaps more space in the back too. The roof's been scalloped out to make lots of headroom, and there's plenty of knee room as well. It's a surprising amount of space for a car that technically qualifies as a compact SUV. Or does it? So this is what's so special about this car. With all that extra space, it now measures about 4.55 meters long. And to me, that's not particularly compact anymore. So let's change the way we look at this car. See it more as a mid-sizer, and suddenly a price of around about $92,000 doesn't seem so unreasonable. And yes, there's a little bit of a reduction in performance, but honestly, I would gladly take that compromise in return for better steering, better ride and handling, and just a better car to live with day to day. Yes, it's a bit more expensive, but I feel like the value proposition of the new X2 has never made more sense. In fact, there's a better way of putting it. Look not at the X2 M35i as a compact, high-performance SUV. Look at it as a mid-sizer that at last has really grown up.